I didn't finish reading it, couldn't. My thumb just froze there while the words kept stabbing me in the face. Tyler, my Tyler. The guy who taught me how to tie a bowline knot, who'd carried my mom's casket with me, who still split our bar tab down the middle even though he made twice what I did. That Tyler. If toxic relationship drama hits close to home, subscribe for more. Back to the chaos. The next buzz was a voicemail from him. I hit play without thinking. B, it's me. His voice sounded like he'd swallowed gravel. Jess told me she was gonna post. I tried to stop her. I swear I tried. Call me, man, we need to. I hurled the phone across the kitchen. It clattered under the table but kept buzzing like a trapped wasp. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt caved in, like someone had parked a truck on it. I slid down the cabinet until my butt hit the tile, knees up, head between them, trying to suck air that wouldn't come. The clock on the microwave rolled to 11:58. Jessica's deadline, her sick, cowardly deadline, was 2 minutes away. She wanted those 6 hours to run, to hide, to let the internet do her dirty work while she disappeared. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for the buzzing to finally stop. Long enough for the silence to feel worse. Eventually, I crawled across the floor and fished the phone out from under the dustpan. Cracks spiderwebbed the screen, but it still lit up. Social media was a bloodbath. Friends tagging me. Tyler's fiancé posting crying emojis. My boss asking if I needed the day off. Everyone's suddenly an expert on my life. I opened Find My Friends. Jessica and I shared locations like a married couple safety blanket. The little dot showed her at the airport, Terminal B, Gate 27. Of course she was. She'd always said if she ever had to vanish, she'd go somewhere warm where nobody knew her name. I grabbed my keys. My legs felt like someone else's, but they moved. Truck started on the second try. I backed out too fast, clipped the mailbox, didn't stop. The sky was that hard, bright blue that makes everything look like a photograph. Noon came and went while I drove, and with every mile the anger got sharper, cleaner, pushing the shock aside like a snowplow. I didn't know what I was going to do when I found her. Part of me wanted to scream until my throat bled. Part of me wanted to fall on my knees and beg her to tell me it was all some twisted joke. Mostly I just wanted to look her in the eye and see if there was anything left of the woman who used to hum off-key while she folded laundry. Traffic was light. I made it to long-term parking in 12 minutes. Terminal B was a 5-minute sprint. I ran it in 3. Gate 27 was boarding a flight to San Diego. The line was down to the last 3 passengers. And there she was, suitcase in hand, sunglasses hiding half her face, hair piled under a baseball cap I didn't recognize. She saw me, froze. For a second the whole airport went quiet in my head. Then she dropped the handle, turned and walked the other way fast, not quite running. I caught her at the family restroom corridor, grabbed her elbow. She flinched like I'd burned her. Brandon. Don't, my voice came out steady, weirdly calm. Just don't. We stood there, 2 statues in a river of people flowing around us. Her chin quivered. She pulled off the sunglasses, eyes so red they looked bruised. I was going to call you, she whispered. After I landed, I swear I was. I laughed, one sharp bark that hurt my throat. You posted a confession to the entire world before you even left the house. You took away every choice I had, and now you want to talk about phone calls. She pressed her lips together, nodded, tears slipping. I know, I couldn't say it to your face. I was scared you'd talk me out of leaving. Leaving, I felt the word like a slap. You think this is about leaving. Jess, you burned my life down. You nuked our friends, our families, my best friend. You made me the last idiot on earth to know, and you did it with a goddamn Facebook post. Her shoulders shook. She looked small, nothing like the woman who'd once dragged me onto a karaoke stage and belted Livin' on a prayer like she owned the bar. I wanted to shake her. I wanted to hold her. I did neither. I'm sorry, she breathed. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't unring a bell. Sorry doesn't erase the image of Tyler's hand sliding up her thigh while I blew out birthday candles in the next room. Sorry doesn't give me back the 9 years I thought we were a team. I let go of her arm. Go catch your plane. She blinked. What? Go before I change my mind and drag you back to the truck and make you face every single person you just humiliated. She hesitated, then backed away a step. 2. You'll divorce me. Oh, Jess, I said, and the smile that crawled across my face felt like broken glass. You're gonna wish divorce was the worst thing that happens to you. Tyler, too. We'll start with lawyers and go from there. Color drained from her cheeks. She opened her mouth, closed it, turned, walked through the jetway without looking back. I stood there until the gate agent shut the door. Then I walked out to the parking deck, sat in my truck and screamed until my voice cracked. After that, I drove home, called my brother, told him to start the guest room. I've got a long road ahead, but step 1's done. I kept my promise, looked at noon, and now I'm never looking back. I stared at Amanda, the words hitting me like a physical blow. Jessica had been pregnant with Tyler's baby. while we were still married, still sharing a bed, still talking about maybe trying for kids of our own next year. She never told me, I said, voice flat. Not once. Amanda wiped her eyes with the heel of her hand. Tyler said she was terrified you'd find out. That's why she pushed so hard for them to leave together. She didn't want to raise his kid alone, and she didn't want to lie to you forever. I laughed, but it came out bitter. Well, that didn't last long. No, she said quietly. After she lost the baby, Tyler said something shifted. He started pulling away, said he felt like they'd built this whole future on something that didn't exist anymore. That's when Jessica got desperate, started texting him constantly, showing up at his work. That's when he finally told me everything. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking. So he didn't choose you because of the baby. He chose you because she scared him off. Amanda hesitated. I think he chose me because he realized he didn't want to be the guy who walked out on his wife and kid, even if the kid wasn't real yet, even if the marriage was already broken. He said he couldn't live with himself if he didn't try. I nodded slowly, and Jessica. She lost everything, Amanda said. The baby, the man, the life she thought she was building. That post, that wasn't just guilt. That was her burning it all down so she didn't have to look at the ashes anymore. I didn't say anything for a long time. The coffee shop hummed around us, people ordering lattes, tapping on laptops, living their normal lives. I felt like I'd stepped into someone else's story, some sad, twisted version of the life I thought I had. Amanda reached across the table, touched my hand lightly. I didn't want you to find out from someone else. Or worse, keep wondering if it was your fault. It wasn't. You were the only one who didn't lie. I pulled my hand back, not because I was angry at her, but because I didn't want to be comforted. Not yet, maybe not ever. Thank you, I said, standing up, for telling me. She looked up at me, eyes red. What are you going to do? I didn't answer. I walked out of the coffee shop, got in my car and drove. Not home, not to Emily's, just drove. Past the park where Jessica and I used to take Sunday walks. Past the restaurant where we had our first date. Past the life I didn't know was crumbling until it was already gone. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew this: I wasn't going to be the one apologizing anymore. I couldn't look at the last one, her laughing with cake on her nose, without my throat closing, so I shut the laptop and went to the garage. The crib was still in its flat-pack box, leaning against the wall like a promise I hadn't kept. I dragged it into the nursery. We'd painted the color of pale limes, the one Jessica called guacamole but make it classy. I opened the box, laid every slat on the carpet, and started Allen-wrenching my way through the instructions. Halfway through, I realized I was humming the stupid lullaby my mom used to sing, the one about the mockingbird buying a diamond ring. My voice cracked on the word Papa, but I kept going because the alternative was hearing the echo of Jessica telling Tyler she wished she'd never met me. The phone buzzed again, Tyler this time. I let it ring until voicemail picked up, then listened anyway. Brandon, man, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but she's scared. Jess, she didn't think it would go this far. She's talking about hurting herself. I'm not asking you to forgive her, just if you could call her maybe. Just to say you don't want her dead. I deleted the message, then blocked his number. I wasn't ready to be anyone's hero tonight. At 2:17 a.m. the crib stood finished, a little crooked, one side higher than the other, but solid. I sat on the floorboards with my back against it, knees up, phone in my lap. Patricia had emailed, Sophie's willing to talk tomorrow at 8. She wants to hear directly from you. I typed a reply, thank you, I'll be there, and hit send before I could second guess. The room smelled like fresh paint and sawdust, and the lavender candle Jessica insisted would make the baby chill. I blew it out, watched the smoke curl like a question mark, and whispered to nobody, we can still do this, little one. Just fewer hands, smaller circle, same love. My voice sounded steadier than I felt, but it was enough to get me off the floor and into bed. I didn't sleep. I counted weeks instead of sheep, 12, 11, 10, until the sky turned the color of the hospital scrubs Sophie wore in the single photo we had of her, the one where she's holding the ultrasound picture like a trophy. When the alarm went off at 6, I was already showered, coffeed, wearing the same shirt from the profile picture because I figured familiarity might help. I set the laptop on the kitchen table, angled it so the messy stack of unopened sympathy cards wasn't in view. Sophie appeared on-screen at 8:02, hair in a messy bun, eyes wary but kind. She didn't waste time. So, where's your wife? I told her the truth in one long breath, no sugar, no varnish. When I finished, she was quiet so long I thought the connection had frozen. Then she said, that sucks majorly, Brandon, and her chin wobbled. I picked you guys because I wanted my kid to have the kind of stability I never got. 2 parents, Sunday dinners, the whole cheesy deal. She wiped her nose on her sleeve. Single dad wasn't in my plan. I get it, I said. If you need to pick someone else, I won't blame you. She chewed her lip, eyes flicking to the crib just visible over my shoulder. You still gonna build that treehouse? Already got the plans, and I've got sisters who will swarm this kid with aunts and cousins. Sundays might look more like tacos and chaos than pot roast, but she snorted, tacos are good. Another pause longer. I've got two conditions. One, you send me a picture of the finished treehouse before his second birthday. Two, you name him something normal. No pilot inspector crap. Deal, I said, heart hammering so loud I figured she could hear it. Sophie, thank you for giving me another shot. She shrugged, but her eyes were soft. Maybe the kid's better off with one parent who's all in than two who are half out. Don't prove me wrong, okay? We hung up and I sat there grinning like an idiot until I realized I was crying again. Ugly, hiccupy tears that tasted like coffee and relief. I opened the blinds. The morning light smacked me square in the face, and for the first time since Jessica's post, I didn't flinch away from it. There was a knock at the door, my neighbor Mrs. Kowalski holding a full-covered casserole dish and a tiny yellow onesie that said Chick Magnet. She didn't ask questions, just pushed both into my hands and said, "Laundry service starts tomorrow, 10 a.m. sharp. We'll fold, you provide the coffee." By noon, the dining table looked like a baby shower exploded. Wipes, butt paste, mismatched socks, a stack of parenting books topped with a post-it that read, "Skip the scary chapters, call me instead," and a dozen phone numbers. I texted Patricia, "We're a go." She replied with a string of celebratory emojis and a court date, 6 weeks to finalize the updated home study. Plenty of time to paint over the guacamole walls, to swap the two-parent photo in the profile book for a single dad selfie with the dog. Plenty of time to figure out how to assemble a stroller without cussing. That night I went back to the nursery, stood in the doorway with the light off and let myself picture it. Me in the rocking chair, baby against my chest, lullaby off-key but enough. Jessica's ghost wasn't welcome here anymore. There was only the future breathing in the dark, small and fierce and mine. I spoke out loud, voice steady. "Sophie's trusting me, little dude. Let's not screw this up." Somewhere between the crib and the window, I swear the air shifted, like the house exhaled for the first time in days. I took it as a yes. I was terrified, but for the first time in a week, I also felt something that wasn't just hollow. I felt a pulse. A small, stubborn beat that said maybe the life I'd spent 9 years building with Jessica wasn't the only life I could build. I walked down the hall, past the guest room closet where I'd stuffed the yellow crib sheets and the tiny stuffed giraffe we'd bought the day we finished painting. My hand hovered over the knob, then kept moving. Not yet, maybe not ever. Maybe I'd paint the room seafoam green or brick red or whatever color a kid picks when they're old enough to point. Aaron was in the kitchen scraping cold pizza into the trash. "You look like you actually slept," he said. "Couple hours." I opened the fridge, stared at nothing, closed it. "Sophie's gonna decide by Friday." He nodded, wiped his hands. "Melissa's got the spare crib set up. Diapers, wipes, the whole nine. We're ready if you are." I felt my throat go thick. "You guys barely know Sophie. Could be a scam, could fall through, could be your kid," he cut in. "That's enough for us." The timer on the oven blinked 12:00 like it had since the night Jessica left. I reached over, pressed the button until it stopped blinking. Small victory. My phone was still on the floor where Aaron flung it. Screen cracked, but it lit up. One new message, not from Jessica this time, unknown number. "Hey, it's Sophie. Patricia gave me your cell. Can we talk again tomorrow? I have more questions. Also, I'm craving tacos and crying at dog commercials. Thought you should know." I smiled before I could stop myself. Aaron raised an eyebrow. "Good news." "She's craving tacos." "Solid start," he clapped my shoulder. "Come on, we'll hit the grocery, buy every taco kid in the store. You can practice swaddling with a burrito." I laughed short, surprised, like a muscle I hadn't used since April. Then I did the only thing that made sense. I grabbed my keys and followed my brother out the door, leaving the yellow nursery behind me, leaving Jessica's last text unanswered, leaving space for whatever color came next. She scooped Emma up like she'd done it 1,000 times before, even though her hands were shaking. "She's got your nose," she whispered, eyes shining. "Poor thing." We all laughed quiet, stunned laughs, the kind you do when the world suddenly feels bigger than it did 5 minutes ago. Aaron clapped my shoulder. "Welcome to the rest of your life, man." I couldn't answer. I was watching Emma's chest rise and fall under the blanket, counting breaths like they might run out. They didn't. She kept breathing, kept being real, kept anchoring me to a future I'd almost thrown away. Inside, the house smelled of lasagna and new paint. Mom had lined the hallway with fresh pictures. Emma's first ultrasound, the two of us the morning I signed the papers. A candid Kate snapped of me asleep on the nursery rug with a half-built mobile above my head. Evidence that life had kept moving even when I hadn't wanted it to. Kate cornered me in the kitchen while everyone fought over bottle temperature. "You okay?" she asked, low enough no one else could hear. I opened the fridge, stared at nothing, shut it again. "I'm terrified I'll screw her up." Good, she said. Terror keeps you gentle. That night the house emptied in waves, hugs, promises, casserole dishes, until only the hum of the baby monitor and the soft tick of the swing remained. I laid Emma in the crib, fingers lingering on the blanket. She wriggled, made that newborn grunt that sounds like a question, then settled. I sat in the rocker, lights off except for the elephant night light throwing soft stars across the ceiling. Outside, a neighbor's sprinkler hissed. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked once and thought better of it. Inside, everything felt impossibly still, like the planet had paused to let us catch up. My phone buzzed on the dresser. Jessica's name lit the screen. I let it ring until voicemail answered, then powered it off. Tomorrow, I deal with lawyers and timelines and the last loose threads of a life I no longer lived. Tonight, I was just Brandon, in sweats and mismatched socks, learning the rhythm of someone else's breathing. Emma sighed in her sleep. I answered out loud, I'm here. The stars on the ceiling kept spinning, slow and patient, while I sat guard over a brand new heart that had already remade mine. I stared at the screen for a long minute, thumb hovering. No anger rose, no ache, just the faint memory of a life that used to be mine. I typed back the only thing that felt true. Thank you, take care of yourself. Then I turned the phone over, left it face down on the counter, and went to sit beside Emma's crib. Her breaths came slow and even, tiny fists relaxed above the blanket. I slipped my finger into her palm. She curled around it without waking. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet except for the neighbor's sprinkler clicking across the lawn. Inside, the hum of the baby monitor sounded like a small, steady heart. I thought about Sophie, somewhere across town, looking at the pictures I'd sent. About Amanda, probably rocking her boy to sleep in a house I'd never see. About Jessica, alone in a city she'd chosen over us. About myself, 33, divorced, bags under my eyes, milk stains on my t-shirt, and I felt steady, not ecstatic, not healed, just real. Emma sighed and shifted. I whispered, tomorrow we'll practice sitting up. Maybe try avocado again. You'll hate it, but we'll do it anyway. She didn't answer, but her mouth twitched like she was filing the plan away. I stayed until my knees ached, then stood, kissed the top of her head, warm, soft, smelling of baby soap, and left the door cracked exactly the width of my forearm, the way my mom used to. In the hallway, I paused, listening to the quiet. The old me would have reached for the phone, scrolled for distraction, chased some ghost of connection. Tonight, I didn't. Tonight, the quiet was enough. Tomorrow would bring new spills, new teeth, new worries. But it would also bring her first laugh of the day, the way she kicked like a frog when she saw me, the weight of her against my chest after the last feeding. I headed to the kitchen to wash bottles, humming something tuneless. The house felt lived in, scuffed, loved, exactly like us. I closed the phone and let the silence settle in, thick, heavy, the kind that makes your ears ring. Jessica's name still glowed faintly in the dark, like an ember I could crush with one thumb. I didn't. I just swiped it away and watched it disappear. Funny how 5 years can shrink to 5 seconds when you press delete. Emma's room smelled like baby shampoo and clean laundry, the soft yellow nightlight throwing moon puddles across the carpet. I stepped inside, boots creaking, and there she was, fists flung above her head like she was signaling touchdown in her dreams. I slid my hands under her warm little body and lifted, slow motion so the rocking chair wouldn't groan. She weighed nothing and everything. Hey, superstar, I breathed. Daddy's got a doozy for you. Her breath hitched, then steadied against my collarbone. I talked anyway, because that's what we'd been doing since the day the agency called, me narrating life out loud, her pretending to sleep through it. One day you'll ask why we don't have wedding pictures on the mantle. I'll tell you we used to, but I packed them away the same week I packed up my old last name. You'll ask what happened to the woman who could have been your mom. And I'll say she chose a different map, baby. Not a villain, just lost. And because she got lost, I found you. Emma's fingers flexed, nails scratching the cotton. Proof she was listening, even asleep. I'll tell you love can detonate and still leave good soil for new things to grow. That hearts don't really break, they fracture, and the cracks let the light come in sideways. That the worst morning of my life, when I read words no husband should ever read, was also the morning the universe pivoted me toward you. I rocked, counting breaths, 43 in, 43 out. My shirt front was damp, maybe drool, maybe tears, same difference. Out in the living room, the moving boxes still wore Sharpie labels. Kitchen, closet, Jess. I'd donate that last one tomorrow. Tonight I couldn't bear the cardboard smell of someone else's choices. Emma sighed the sigh that ends conversations, so I whispered the only promise that mattered. I'm not going anywhere. And I finally meant it. Not the frantic, desperate version I'd once said to Jessica, trying to staple a marriage back together with guilt and late-night texts. This was quieter, steel, the kind you build bridges on. An hour slipped by. The clock on the dresser flipped numbers like a dealer shuffling cards. I thought about the man I'd been, the guy who believed stability meant control, who thought love was a contract you could bullet point into forever. That man died the minute Jessica hit send. Good riddance. In his place, a single dad who microwaves coffee 3 times before he drinks it, who sings off-key to a baby who'd rather chew the harmony, who now knows that forever is built daily, not signed annually. Eventually, Emma's weight shifted, deep sleep dead weight, and I laid her down, palms lingering under the small of her back until I felt the rise and fall settle into its own rhythm. I tucked the giraffe blanket under her chin, the one with the stitched motto, "Brave Little Human." I kissed my fingertip, pressed it to her cheek, and tiptoed out. In the hallway, I paused outside the spare room. The door was cracked. Inside, the crib mobile cast rotating stars across the ceiling. I'd painted that room the color of early sunrise because the clerk at the hardware store told me new beginnings, and I was desperate enough to believe in paint names. I inhaled once, deep, like I was about to dive. "Okay," I said to nobody. "Tomorrow we start chapter 1. My phone buzzed, probably the group chat checking in. I ignored it. Jessica's ghost could stay deleted. Emma's future couldn't wait. So here's the last thing, the thing I'll tell her when she's older, and asking why Daddy stares at her sometimes like she invented color. You weren't Plan B's. You were the plot twist that made the whole book worth reading. And to anyone still awake at 3 a.m., scrolling stories because your own bed feels like a battlefield, pack the boxes, delete the messages, cry until the neighbor's dog howls along. Then open the door to the spare room, whatever your spare room is, and start painting. Sunrise is a shade that covers everything. Would you have made the same choice? Comment below.